Hello, this video is a response to Parallax and Paradox Flat Earth Reflection by The Truth is Stranger Than Fiction channel. I'd like to first say that this is not some sort of fight or debate, or it's just some comments. The Truth is Stranger Than Fiction is one of my absolute favorite Flat Earth channels, no question. So I just want that to be clear. This is not the standard let's fight with each other and play dumb little games and stuff like that. As you'll see in a second, I just want to make some comments back to the very thoughtful video that Truth is Stranger Than Fiction put out on March 29 of this year about some of the remaining unsolved issues about Flat Earth. I think the main point that I want to say is that yes, there are some unsolved issues to do with Flat Earth, like southern stars and so forth. I personally don't think those are unsolved. I think that my zetetic eye gyroscope model definitely explains those. The model, of course, needs to be tweaked and so forth, but we're on the right track, in my opinion. Others may disagree, that's fine. The point of this video here is not to try to defend that model. It's just to say, well, maybe they're not unsolved issues. But the bigger point is there's always going to be some unsolved issues no matter what model you're talking about. Consider the unsolved issues of the heliocentric model and the standard cosmologies. The standard academic cosmology. Dark matter. Dark matter simply is an indirect admission by academics that gravitation simply doesn't work. Newton came up with gravitation viewed in terrestrial situations hundreds of years ago. Try to apply that to space, doesn't work. Doesn't work in the solar system, doesn't work. It gets even worse when you get in bigger scales. But shouldn't we remember that the whole crux, the whole foundation of the academic cosmology of heliocentrism is gravitation? That is the bedrock of the whole academic game, and it simply doesn't work. So yeah, flat earthers, understandably, myself included, are worried about unsolved issues in our flat earth models and research. But let's get this clear. They are nothing compared to the problems of the heliocentric model. You know, everybody's getting worried about fighting with people, winning little debates and YouTube comments and so forth. Forget all that. Plow forward and do hardcore empirical research, and we'll make progress. Think of the progress over the last year is unfathomable. I can't even believe it. Just simply the cooling moonlight experiment alone is an absolute revolution in thought. How can it be? It's a perfectly empirical experiment anybody can reproduce, and it's a death blow to heliocentrism. I redid the experiment on my channel. I've posted it on comments on professional physicists' websites, and they delete the comment because they can't respond. How about this? Here's another problem. Galaxy quasar connection. Here's a title of an article, Astrophysical Journal 319, pages 687 to 692, 1987, August 15. The Galaxy Quasar Connection, NGC 4319 and Markarian 205, direct imagery. This article shows that two galaxies that look like they're next to each other in space, according to the heliocentric and standard cosmologies, that according to the academic paradigms, are supposed to be actually very far from each other. One is much more distant than the other. They just happen to be next to each other from our angle on Earth, but they're very far from each other. No, you can show that they are intermixing matter. They have gas trails which are intermixing. This is published in Astrophysical Journal by top academic cosmological experts. And this is one of several articles on this topic. Some were published by experts from Caltech University, the #1 astrophysics research institution in the world. So that is a very serious problem to the academic views. How about sundogs? Sundogs can't be explained. They are specifically, I put out a video that very clearly contradicts the academic view of sundogs. Case closed. I'm not talking about a dome or anything. I'm just talking about simply the academic view of sundogs. The angle that sunlight comes in and reflects off ice crystals to supposedly create sundogs, you can very clearly show is impossible. Well, that's a serious problem because the only other view I know of for sundogs is my dome view, which, to my knowledge, very nicely explains the structure of sundogs, and you can reproduce it experimentally. How about the tidal locking theory of the moon, for why the moon only shows one face, or about 59% only of it? Okay, so how does that make any sense? Why does one face show, but yet it moves around the Earth? Wouldn't the tidal locking theory lead to the idea that that simply doesn't make any sense, unless I've looked into it and nobody can explain to me why you have one face shows, but yet it's not locked to one part of the Earth. In other words, it's only visible straight overhead in India, for example, or something. I wouldn't say that's some death blow to the heliocentric model, but it's a significant problem. It's much more of a problem than southern stars would be for flat Earth, since my model describes southern stars with ease. Anyway, I don't want to try to defend my models here. I want to just mainly point out bigger picture issues rather than just my specific research. I mean, just that moonlight experiment, heliocentrists cannot explain. Flat earthers cannot explain it, but it doesn't contradict the flat earth model. It contradicts the heliocentric model very easily. So guys, I'm going to keep going with more examples, but I'm wondering why we flat earthers don't plow forward with a sense of revolution. The evidence is on our side. Who cares about a couple problems? They're always going to exist, no matter how developed the model gets. We're stuck here on the surface of Earth. We can't get up in other areas and see a bigger picture, so we're only going to be limited to our perspective. Another unbelievable problem for the heliocentric model is the sun grows in size and shrinks in size as it rises and sets during the day. The only defense I've seen for heliocentrists are just some people on YouTube commenting to me saying I need a filter. Well, why do I need a filter when I can go to Lake Michigan near my house and right at sunset the sun is so dim I can look straight at it without even squinting? Can clearly see the round edge, not distorted at all. And we can measure that size changing shape. So why do I need a filter? I don't need a filter. Okay. Anyway, I've talked about that issue ad nauseum in other videos. But that's a death blow to heliocentrism, and it's exactly what flat earthers predict. How about the appearance of the moon does not exhibit front-lit properties? You should get more reflection in the middle areas of the sun, of the full moon, in reflecting sunlight as compared to the outer edges, which will reflect light at a different angle and less light will reach you for the outer edges. But that is specifically not what happens. Death blow to heliocentrism. But yet flat earthers are sitting here on YouTube and so forth, worried about a couple much smaller problems, which may even have solutions already. Even things like the sidereal year in the heliocentric model. Now that is in no way a contradiction to the heliocentric model, but it's a sort of, it basically means that the Earth moves around the sun throughout the year in such a way that when you're on one side of the sun and you're facing away from the sun at night, when you're on the other side, you're not going to be facing towards it at night. And no, the sun moves just in the way that the sun will basically stay in the same kind of night and day patterns. That's different than, like, I think is it Venus, that you've got a day that's longer than the year? It doesn't have to be that way. This is simply all not a problem to have the 24-hour day period for the flat Earth model. For the heliocentric model, it's a bizarre, another one of the weird, crazy, bizarre, 1 in a trillion coincidences, or whatever you want to say. Which model's cleaner? With the sidereal year, the heliocentric model is a mess. Flat Earth model, very clean. Simple. Anyway, I'm kind of busy today. I can't really keep going with this video. I could keep going on and on with examples like this. I'm just wondering what the problem is. Why I think flat earthers, I'm not saying truth is stranger than fiction falls into this, but I think maybe flat earthers in general, myself included, we have to be careful not to be tricked by YouTube commenters that are playing mind games with us, talking about sun filters at sunset when you can look straight at it because there's no oversaturation of light. I mean, I know that academic science has a lot of power and is impressive, and they've had 500 years to construct their fabricated model, but their fabricated model is done. It's got too many contradictions. Moonlight, sun shrinkage, I just went over a bunch. We're gonna find more. Also, I've got a video coming out in about 1 week to do with the sunset, which you'll see very specifically contradicts the heliocentric model done. But flat Earth, it works perfectly. It's something I don't think anybody's seen yet. It'll just be another piece of the puzzle for flat Earth. So, I mean, my general point is that we're in the midst of a zetetic scientific revolution. But we have to have our philosophy of science correct. There is no perfect model. When anybody on YouTube says, explain this one thing that you're having trouble explaining with flat Earth, you don't need to throw away the model if you can't explain it. Or if you do, then you can throw away Big Bang cosmology since gravity doesn't work. It's clearly contradicted. That's why the dark matter mystery, keyword there is mystery, that's real scientific, right? Mystery. That's why the dark matter mystery had to be invented, fabricated. The point is the problems for heliocentrism are far, far, far greater than those for Zeteticism. What we have in Zeteticism, in my opinion, is a bunch of people like myself on YouTube who are amateurs. I'm an amateur. I'm a professional philosopher. I don't even do that anymore. I don't have all the scientific background. That's the case with almost everybody. You've got engineers doing astrophysics. You've got ministers doing gravitation physics. That's what we're working at here. Now, it's not, a lot of people say, oh, that's a death blow to flat Earth because you don't have experts on it. Well, if you're in the academic setting like I was for 13 years teaching, you'd know that's not really that big of a problem because most of the people that are experts in a field don't know that much about it, or they know an incredibly narrow amount of something. If you're a solar system astronomer, for example, you may know about the contours and mapping of Venus and nothing else. The classical education, where you know a lot about a lot of things, is frowned upon now. And we're supposed to believe that knowing a tremendous amount about one tiny, tiny aspect of reality, if you even really do know that much about it, is good knowledge. Well, that's not correct. See, then you're in a situation where you're believing so much on faith because you just know a few things. You know a lot about the surface of Venus from what you can tell from however you're trying to map it, but you don't know anything about the dark matter mystery. You just have to believe it because everybody else does. Well, anyway, I think I made my point. Flat Earth is an empirical, scientific, zetetic revolution, and flat earthers don't need to have their tail between their legs. I'm not saying truth is stranger than fiction is doing that. I'm just saying this is real info. Anyway.